All right.
All right, everyone, we are back. And like I said previously, we have with us Pippin and Aspire. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Pretty good.
Good. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for taking some time out of today and just talking to us about your project, your journey, and your story. I know a lot of people are excited to hear it, and then what's to come. So, with that said, if you guys want to introduce yourselves briefly and just give us kind of a high-level overview of who you are and what the Build the World project is, and then we can kind of dig into more details after that.
Yeah, my name is Pippen. To make it really, really short, I'm just a YouTuber who was doing, grindy projects, and then I came up with this amazing video concept, and everyone thought it was like really cool and stuff, and so now here we are with this big project, and I'm leading it. I'm the head of the Discord, and I'm the head of the project.
And I am Aspire. I was brought on to the admin team for the Build the Earth project to help with some management issues, organizational issues, and I've been a part of the team for about a month now. So
Very cool. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and thank you again, guys, for meeting with us this morning, and for being here to be able to talk a little bit more about the project.
And Jay,
yeah,
when I
Very
know,
happy to be here. No problem.
we appreciate you guys as well. So
Thank you.
of course, of course. And Jay, when I think you wanted to mention about the charity as well, is that correct?
Oh yeah, so we originally were going to go for Big Table for the charity of choice, but as that is not on Tiltify yet, I guess that's in the works. Why is it that you wanted to go with Big Table?
Well, I chose that charity for one of my videos, and it ended up being really nice. They do local outreach and financial relief for the pandemic, and I donated some to them, and I got I got this really nice handwritten note in the mail, and I got another message later from the people who had sort of received the money that I had donated, right? And so I just got to see that ecstatic response. So I've had a really good experience with that charity so far.
Oh,
So that
that's
was my
great.
first choice.
It's really cool. Little nice touches like that, I feel like can go a long way. So that's really cool.
Yep.
So if people are looking to support that, we can definitely provide more information later on Big Table. Unfortunately, for transferring money, we don't want to be part of that. We want Tiltify to handle that, which is why we went with a different group for that. But thank you for sharing that information. So, um, in regards to Build the World, Pippin, I know we spoke briefly the other day preparing for this, but can you just tell us a little bit about how did you get started on this project? How did that kind of conception become a reality and how it unfolded from there? If you don't mind sharing that with the viewers.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a really, really interesting story. I think it sort of boils down to the fact that people don't really understand me or who I am on YouTube, and I was always wondering why that was the case. And I had sort of a realization this morning that it kind of comes from the previous game that I was interested in. So I was originally a huge RuneScape fan, and on RuneScape, doing these grindy projects where you get to like 99 this or 99 that, that was just commonplace. And so basically, when I eventually switched games into Minecraft, Minecraft had a lot of differences, but one of the main ones was that you could possibly cheat the resources in via creative mode and other means. But I just pretended that that didn't exist, and I sort of kept doing what I like to do, which was like epic, really grindy projects. And so eventually, eventually, I'd been doing these projects for years, and one time I was just like, well, let's just make a video of one of them, which was, wouldn't it be really cool if someone eventually mined the entire Endstone Island, the main Endstone Island in the end? And so I, started doing that, started time lapsing it. It was my first time ever doing that, and I didn't think it would get any attention. Um, I did the video, and I released it in, I'd say, like 10 months before December of 2019. So I had like 100 subscribers, and it just got a couple thousand views, and it just sat there for about 10 months. And then, when December 1st, 2019 hit, it eventually started to pick up. I just checked the video one day and it had like 100,000 views. I'm like, what the heck is happening? And it just kept snowballing. Like for some reason, the YouTube algorithm took 10 months to pick it up, but here we go. And then about a week later, it had like 4 million views. And so I went from like 100 subscribers to 20,000 subscribers in the matter of like a week or two. And I was just like, well, I mean, clearly an opportunity has been handed to me here, and it would be foolish not to waste it. So I went towards that as much as I could, and then so I was doing my regular videos and stuff, and sketching video ideas, and then sort of my intuition for really gigantic, ridiculous coincided with this mod I found that generates the whole Minecraft 1-to-1 scale, and I was just like, wouldn't it be really cool if we built the entire Earth, like all of our human-made structures on this terrain? And so I was writing the script that week, and it sort of really just it took on a life of its own, and I just realized that I didn't know what I was making. I was making something really really interesting. I had no idea that it would blow up this much, but I was really lucky because no YouTuber had done a video on the mod yet. I was like checking, with like, YouTube channels that, do mod reviews and stuff. Like, oh, no one's done it yet. No one's done yet. Okay. Maybe this will be, land really, really well. And so, upload day came and no one had done any video on it yet. So I uploaded it and it did really, really well with my audience. And it was sort of getting a normal amount of views for the first, I'd say, 30 hours, and then suddenly YouTube just like flipped on a switch, and then just like just this huge, like, just everyone's like, it's coming in, it's coming in, it's coming in. It ended up getting about I think it almost has 9.5 million views now, and it was just unlike the response was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. I was able to deal with my jump from December. For some reason, like that was cool because I wasn't really exactly working in a team. I was just working myself, and then suddenly like I'm the head of this project, and everyone there's all these people in the Discord, and they want like this like organization. All these people are jumping in like wanting to help and stuff, and it's really testing my myself to the limits here. And we ended up getting sort of the Discord running, and we got a management team, and we figured out exactly how we're going to do this. And so we just eventually started rolling out the process, and that didn't come out with with its problems. It came with its problems as well, because we had an issue with the projection. Equirectangular was sort of stretching all the terrain, and so everyone was building in this broken terrain. And I had never done any research on like, projections or map projections or anything like that. I had no idea that this is a human endeavor that's been going on for 500 years now, and that no one had had any sort of perfect solution to. And so suddenly we had to get like a really good solution on switching a sphere Earth-like terrain to a 2D flat square map. And so we ended up doing just a crazy amount of work. I just put everyone who was wanted to get this done, everyone who was capable of like figuring this out and stuff, together in a discussion, and we all talked about it, and we ended up coming up with something pretty special in the matter of 2 weeks, and we were able to switch to that. So the project has had a lot of challenges, and my whole journey to it is just I never expected this would happen. If you had told me that this would have happened, as of November, like 5 months ago or whatever, I would have just been like, no, that sounds like a alternate universe. There's no way that could happen. And so this whole thing has been absolutely amazing, and it's been an amazing ride. And I love this project, and I love everything that's happened so far with my life and everything around it. And yeah, it's just been amazing. And yeah.
That's really cool, though. Hey, and thanks for sharing that. And I think you cover a lot of really important and really cool topics in that little bit of an overview of this journey. One, I think you're a glutton for the grind. I used to play World of Warcraft, and I was like, I hate the grind, but man, I love the grind at the same time. So having this idea that hasn't been done, for one, and it getting viral, that's really cool. Also, it didn't go viral right away. You said it was about a 10-month period. Is that correct?
Yeah, for my first sort of video that went big on YouTube.
Yeah, and so I think from like a content creation standpoint, it's just interesting how YouTube will take stuff and you just never know what might or might not, hit those like fine ticks that make them promote it. So that's cool, and that started the snowball effect. But then what did you do from there? You took that momentum, and then you got this other crazy idea that's really cool and ambitious, and then you made another video, and it sounds like it did well, especially with that growth that you've had before. But then from there it gets even bigger, and YouTube does it again, and now it's over 9 million, almost 10 million views. That's insane. So I think that's really cool, and it's a huge inspiration for YouTube content creators like myself, to even get a portion of that. So to see someone, have that and not just take that growth and momentum, but you're using it for this awesome project. It sounds like you guys almost made like a breakthrough with this map projection. I'd love to hear a little more about that. Can you talk about like what you went into? Did you have to work with like professionals in that field to help with this?
Yeah, so I mean, we were just a bunch of guys with computers, and we were like, well, what do we do here? And so we just sort of started analyzing exactly how we could accomplish our objective, which was to minimize the massive amount of distortion that you have to deal with when transferring a spherical Earth terrain to a 2D flat sphere map. And so we had, a really, really brilliant code developer, Adam Baum, and, he had done every other projection that was in the mod so far, and there was like 6 or 7 of them. And so we just looked at everything, and we sort of narrowed it down to 2 options. Now, one was Mercator, which has been around for 500 years, and it's actually preserves everything perfectly at the expense of one factor, which is scale. And so as further out you get from the equator and the center point there, everything just sort of gets like larger and larger and larger. So Greenland, which is not supposed to be larger than Africa, ends up being like 3 times the size of Africa. So while everything is like, so while it can look a little ridiculous when you're looking at the entirety of the map at the same time, it preserves angle and everything else like completely perfectly, and just solves for that by adding additional size as the further out you go. And then the other one that we looked at was more contemporary. It was very, very interesting. What it did was it took the sphere of an Earth, and then it turned it into a shape that was closer to that of a sphere rather than just trying to unfold it like a map. So it would turn it into a icosahedron, I believe. So basically, just it's like a soccer ball. I don't know if it's exactly a soccer ball, but that's a pretty good analogy for you to visualize it.
Hmm.
And so it takes these like sphere sides and turns them flat, as opposed to just trying to turn the whole thing flat at once. And so then once you have that, you can just sort of unfold it like a cardboard cutout. And so it's centered around the North Pole, and then you can see sort of the continents, sprawled out around it. And then just the one thing that looks ridiculous is it's at the expense of the oceans. So like the oceans are all serrated at this like crazy funky map design, but the cool thing about it was that it is just like the minimal amount of distortion in all respectives. So in all like in shape, in angle, in relationship between the land masses, it's the least amount of distortion for the expense of the oceans. And so the one thing that we wanted to do in addition to that was, maybe preserve the cardinal directions a little bit, because you're looking at this map and in the center is the North Pole, and then you've got like, North America on this side and Asia on this side, and it's all sprawled out like that. So what we did was we took the 2 halves of the continents and we rotated them upwards so that it ended up looking like the Mercator map and equirectangular map, basically the familiar map shape that we look at when we look at a map, online or in a book.
That's that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and I wish I could do a visual right now. I'm doing my best here, but no, it looks really cool. And one of the most interesting things about it that I find is that instead of Antarctica being a long strip on the bottom, it's actually like its own island. So
Hmm.
it's just like it looks like it should if you were to look at it like from the Earth, like just a little ball at the bottom, as opposed to this like big long strip that equirectangular and Mercator turn it into.
Yeah.
Nice. Did you ever think that taking geometry in high school, you'd actually be using it to plot out
Oh
how to
god.
convert a sphere into a map?
Oh yeah.
I just think that's so cool, and it's just a YouTube gaming channel. to this. What a transition! What
Yeah.
a
Well, yeah. I'm
transformation!
just thankful that these guys actually took math classes. You know,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
once we
I,
got to algebra, I was just like, so I don't really, I don't know anything about that. I was just sort of the big picture guy of like, how can we do this, guys? And then everyone else worked out the
Hey,
details.
someone
So
has to
that's
come up with the idea. That's for
that's
sure.
the fun job, right? You're like, this sounds cool. All right, figure it out. you know.
Right.
yeah, yeah.
So that's
S-
awesome.
So Pippin, for this, like to get all of the projections to be able to start this project, how long did it take to be able to solve all of those problems, to be able to get the
Well,
projections to where you could start on it?
yeah, yeah. So a week into the project, we realized how screwed we were with equirectangular. So we just went as fast as possible from there. Putting the minds together. We ended up getting this. We took a little less than a week to come up with the two options, which is equirectangular and Dymaxion edited. And then we gave it up to a vote to the Discord, and in an avalanche, they voted for the Dymaxion edited. And we were just like, oh crap, because we didn't have it. It was just a concept. And so for the next a little over a week, we got Daniel Streb, a leading mathematician in the field of map projections, to unite heads with Atom Bomb, our genius developer, and they figured out exactly like the entire mathematical process to convert it, the regular satellite data and everything, into the exact map projection that we had come up with. And it was just amazing to see their progress on that so we were able to come up with that breakthrough in about 8-9 days. It was
Wow.
incredible.
And this is like a breakthrough for this kind of spherical translation to 2D like map plane. Is that correct? Like this is an
Yeah,
actual
yeah.
breakthrough.
Yeah, no
That's
one's ever. Yeah, I mean,
that,
Yeah, that's
very
we,
amazing.
cool.
we yeah. So it's like we could have gone with like the regular Dymaxion, but we wanted like Dymaxion conformal, which was a little harder to do. But with Daniel that was like his unique map projection that he came up with. And then our further edit to turn the halves upward so it looks like a regular map, and so cardinal projections are somewhat preserved. Yeah, it's totally brand new, and it's
So,
just unique to the project, and we're really, really proud of it.
So what you're saying,
Dymaxium Pro.
is you're gonna be in history books.
Minecraft history books.
Minecraft history books.
and well, in this video, this original concept video, you released, was it March 21st of this year, like a little over a month ago? Is that correct?
Yeah.
So all this has unfolded since then. So just over a little bit of a month.
The last month has felt like a year.
I
That's
believe it.
I just, whenever I was talking with you and listening and looking into it, I was like, I thought this was something that was ongoing for a longer time. And I saw that and I'm just like blown away because, I saw vice.com, like Eurogamer, PC Gamer. There's all these big websites, gaming news coverage, not even gaming news, covering your story and talking about this build the earth. It's just, how cool. I just think it's so cool, man. So that's just amazing. So thanks for sharing that. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have no one to thank more than YouTube itself, who just, I mean, for them it's a business, so it was just like something about my video, people were clicking on it a lot on the front page, so that's why they decided to sort of, open the pipes. But I'm really, really thankful to everyone for sort of giving us this chance, and now it's sort of up to us to it's the ball's in our court now to
Keep it going.
work really hard and
Mhm.
get this going and see how far we can get.
So, speaking of that, like how far along are you on the project?
Yeah, so that's really hard to qualify because it's like how exactly would we create a bar that represents the progress? Like
Yeah.
you are 3% finished or whatever. So I mean, God, we'd have to crunch a lot of numbers to come to something that's even like close to being accurate. But I had just released an episode this morning. I'm a little frazzled because I actually stayed up 24 hours finishing it, and then I went to bed at 5 a.m. this morning, slept 4 hours, got up, and now I'm here.
Well,
So
thank you
that's
for
really.
joining
Oh,
us
it's
Yeah.
still. That's crazy. Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay. It's fun. What was I saying? That's a product of the sleep deprivation. Um, So yeah, no, I had just released a video this morning of Seattle episode 1, and in it I spend like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of doing the first building. And it's a pretty big building, it's the Target building right next to Pike Place in Seattle. So, you know, there's that, but at the same time, like it took way longer than I thought. And I'm not the best at world edit and all this stuff. And I sort of opened up to community. I'm like, hey guys, I'm new at this. You can help me, help you, and like we'll all get better at this together. But if you go and look in the Discord, actually, the progress is freaking insane. So while I've finished one building in Seattle, Mindfact and his New York server have finished, I think, over 3,000 buildings at this point.
Dang.
Yeah, no,
Wow.
it's
Whew.
insane. He has this amazing like process where you sort of just build the buildings and then they get sort of sent to the right places. It's a really really interesting process. I'm gonna build a couple of
Almost
buildings on his server when I have the free time.
almost like a
Some of
conveyor belt kind of thing, huh?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very very interesting,
Hmm.
and so far the model's seen a lot of success. So if it
we
continues, we would like to implement it elsewhere.
we've noticed that the more organized that teams get, the the easier it is for them to actually do their job with building. So that's one of our focuses, is to whether it's through mod development or server development, to just enable better collaboration
Mhm.
and organization. Because the difference between Mindfact servers, that there's so much time and development that went into that to then enable other people.
Mhm.
So
Very cool. Well, and I
and that,
think I'm sorry.
now that we have this team, even though there are some fairly large issues such as that coming up, we I don't think we're too worried about really anything development wise now.
Awesome. Well, and I think that's like a real world issue that companies all over are trying to solve. I've worked in a few startups previously in my career, and it's all about how can we empower our teams, different departments, and so they can do what we've hired them or what they're there to do, because there's so much like red tape and stuff that can get in their way. So I think that's a great segue though to ask you guys about this community. You've gone from, did you even have a Discord server before this blew up?
I had a Patreon Discord server, but that's just a small community to thank the people who financially support me. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I just after the video started, I started the Discord like I don't know, just the hour before I was uploading the video and setting everything up,
Mhm.
Awesome.
and then like I went to sleep after I uploaded the video, and then like I woke up and there's like thousands of people in this Discord, and I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Well,
And so
what's numbers it at right now, give or take? Do you have kind of not an exact number, but a general idea of around?
Um, Around 210,000, give or take a couple thousand.
And that's
Wow.
that's
So,
in a month, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
a little over a month, yeah.
Yeah, that's insane.
So I think that's a huge blessing slash potential curse, depending how you handle that. What challenges did you guys run into, or how did you overcome, getting thousands of people joining in a matter of hours, days, weeks, to over hundreds of thousands now? What did that look like in terms of managing and not being overwhelmed? Can you talk through that process a little bit?
Yeah, so
Um,
basically my beginning sort of my beginning like when it started, I was just like, well, there's no way I can do this alone. So, I start putting on staff, start hiring staff. I start getting sort of this system where it can be like, self-managing, where people are doing tasks where I don't have to do everything, right? And, if you can't develop sort of that self-managing system where, people are working on stuff, it's like there's going to be a minimal growth that you can achieve, because, you're going to be just spending all your time on this, and like you can't produce the man hours capable of managing this entire server by yourself. So you got to sort of, hire, get the people going and get the staff going and get it larger and everything. And sort of once that was able to happen, then I was able to sort of focus on what my role is really as a promoter, and like, the direction guy, and like, what are we doing from here? And so, that happened, and I started just doing the different brackets of staff positions and stuff. I eventually hired admins, and that included this Aspire. and that sort of led to what everything that he's doing right now.
So I joined right after the Dymaxion projection thing. Um, and like the main issues of the Discord, it started off as this extremely large project that everybody had, but just due to the overall growth, um like the main focus has changed from, instead of completing that project, people management, and and enabling those people to um to complete the project.
Mm-hmm.
So, the main thing that we've done to handle that is just team building. We have somewhere between 60 to 70, 75 staff now on a bunch of different teams. We have a management structure. Um, you know, there's we're trying to leverage each individual person's skill set as much as uh, possible, and I think that can also be done, on the builder side of things.
Very cool. Yeah, and in regards to, have you run into a lot of problems? I just imagine with that scale that you probably get trolls, things like that. Have you run into a lot of that? And if so, what did you do to help combat that? Like bots, manpower. What does that look like from that level?
Yeah, so there were time periods that we would be getting 50,000 people new to the Discord in, like, just over 24 hours. So, and at that point, that's not something that you can prepare for. That's not something that we even knew was coming. So, there we did have issues with trolls and raids and stuff like that. um, and again, that's something that we kind of put together a team for. And they implemented bots. We have a leveling system now, so people can't just instantly hop onto the Discord, get their language roll, and hop into chat. They have to show at least some participation um, in the project before even getting into those discussions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that solved probably 95% of the issue. Of course, you're always going to have like
Mm-hmm.
your outliers and
Right.
trolls and stuff, but
Have you gotten
um,
anybody like that are, I guess, that have gotten accepted into this project that have openly tried to like sabotage areas of it? Because I would be worried
um,
about that.
it's it's not as big of an issue as you think. That actually was a concern of mine as well.
Mm-hmm.
Where that's happened, it's usually been um, kind of to spite other members.
Mm-hmm.
Because we do have a management structure, and we have the different build teams, um, and stuff like that. And whenever you give anybody any any power, like whatsoever, or
Mm-hmm.
say that they're head of the team, even though it's not really a managerial role, people that naturally, some people are going to kind of overstep those bounds. um, so like within the actual Discord, I don't think there's been any instances of that, but
Mm-hmm.
whenever it comes to like the build teams and stuff, they're just out of spite, there's a couple
Yeah.
instances that of stuff like that happening.
And
Yeah,
how?
the
I'm
great
sorry.
thing about the great thing about this project is that it's done basically mostly on single player. There's like a couple of servers for like regional areas, and those are starting to pop up more. But it's very very grief proof, because like if you wanted to sneak something in, you'd have to try sneaking something in. You can't just go into the file or go onto the server and sort of like break stuff. Like it's just not possible. So we have a very very low. It's practically non-existent, that issue is. And then another thing is that I think when it comes to like bot attacks and trolls and stuff on the Discord, I've been really pleasantly surprised. In my view, it seems like it's been a lower than average than your typical like per capita whatever it would be. And I
Mm-hmm.
I would attribute that sort of the wholesome aims of the project itself. We're not
Yeah.
It's not a toxic. It's a very very non-toxic environment, or like less toxic than average environment when it comes to online spaces and stuff. And that's one
Hmm.
thing that I'm really happy about and proud of.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, and I think, you having that mindset is kind of setting that expectation for others. So I think that's really cool that you approach it that way. That wholesome nature, there's a trickle down effect, I think, to your members. And of course, there's some that, they want to see the world burn kind of thing. But for the most part, I feel like if you set those expectations, that's going to help. One other question I had for you, Aspire, is how big exactly is the build team right now? Or maybe Pippin, I don't know if that's better answered by you, but for you guys.
Um, so the overall build team size, I want to say, is probably 13 to 1500 at this point. Um, and that doesn't sound like a large number, especially in comparison to our member base. And we still are trying to get more builders, but the issue is that they're so geographically dispersed, that, you have teams building cities, you have teams building countries. So um, just organizing, that amount of people onto their all of their different discords and servers and stuff has become a task in itself that we have somebody to handle.
Yeah, it's funny you say it doesn't sound like a big number. To me, it sounds like a huge number, builders. But then you're talking, this is literally a global scale where
Hmm.
you're having people from all around the world. And that's just so awesome, guys.
Yeah, it's like 1% of our Discord. So our big goal is like 10% right now. We want to get
Hmm.
10% on the builder role itself.
So
Very
how do you go about assigning builders to teams?
That's all handled through our website.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Very nice.
so you, the build team leaders, they put in an application to make their build team an official part of the project, and
Hmm.
then the builders who have already been accepted can then look through the list, find build teams that are in their area, and then put in an application to join that build team. Um, so for the most part, it is automated at this point. At one time, it was
Yeah,
That
mostly
I can
manual.
imagine.
manual does not sound fun. Yeah,
No.
automation is the key for sure.
Hmm.
So basically, you guys are running a business, like a nonprofit organization, basically. But it's a business. Like you've got managerial positions,
Hmm.
you've got staff, you have applications to be able to apply for the specific jobs. Like I mean, heck, if you guys wanted to start a business, you probably could in real life.
Yeah, we're
Well,
definitely looking into that. Yeah.
Yeah, there
I
you
was going to
go.
say, I think that
Hmm.
feeds into. I know we have a few minutes left before we want to take it to viewer questions. So, viewers, if you have questions for Pippin or Aspire, please share them. The mods will take them. We'll hit those. And I would like to ask, though, what does it look like moving forward? It sounds like starting a business. That sounds like an option definitely on the table. Makes a lot of sense. But in terms of projection, personal goals, what does that look like for you for moving forward?
Yeah, for me personally, the next year is definitely about developing. Since I realized, how monumental this task is, and also like it's a bit slower than I actually thought initially. I'm looking to get sort of advancements in our mods, so world edit and stuff. Just extending, like just getting custom build mods perhaps that'll allow us to build these buildings in a manner that's much more efficient and quick. Because that's gonna have a multiplication effect that cuts down the hours just significantly for just thousands and thousands of people working on this project.
Hmm.
And then another thing that we thought is, the work is really hard, and so it's really important for people to take breaks. And the cool thing to be able to have would be within our infrastructure a way for people to take breaks and have fun. And so we're looking into starting a mini games server. And the really cool thing about that is we're going to have some really unique maps to work with that are our own. So when you're taking a break from building the Earth, you could like fight everyone like in the Earth. Like whether it's New York or Houston or Venice or wherever.
That's really cool. So, and isn't Hypixel something similar where they have different mini games and like kind of a server set for that style of gameplay?
Yeah, yeah. So
Hmm.
Hypixel, definitely emerged sort of as the prominent Minecraft minigame server. And we think it would be really, really fun to sort of just humbly start our own small minigame server. I think with our maps,
Hmm.
the maps of the Earth definitely would make it unique, and it would
Oh
be a really,
yeah,
really
for
fun
sure.
place initially. Just as a fun place for our builders to take a break and have fun.
Yeah. Well, here's something I'm interested in. Have you ever considered or have you reached out to Hypixel about potentially partnering with you with their resource and community to help, sponsor you guys for that kind of mini game side of it to help give that incentive for your builders?
We haven't reached out to them specifically, but I mean, we are working on like strategic partnerships. The difficulty with that, and also like on the business side, is if we want to become a business and we want to start having these partners, we started off as a community project. So the communities always has to come first. Um, so that does complicate things a bit, but for the most part, I think like most of the development side of things for this project, we're fairly well set up for it. We're right now the main partners that we're looking for have to do with like hardware and infrastructure stuff like that.
Hmm.
Very cool. That's interesting to hear that because that makes a lot of sense. Once I hear you explain that, I'm like, oh, well, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
I
cool.
I have a question. So I was wondering if you have any sort of, um, I guess, training regimen to be able to help people who would like to be a part of the project but don't know much about Minecraft itself or haven't really dove into it.
Hmm.
Like, is there any sort of portion of that, or is that something that you guys have thought of or plan to put into the works?
That's something that um, has kind of been a mention in the works for a little bit now. Not necessarily like a training program, but kind of just guides on how to build, how to um, you know manage your build teams
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So but
Because.
we're also working to kind of bridge that gap with software development.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming out with more automated installers and stuff
Mm-hmm.
because handling mods and mod packs can be hard at times. So it's not necessarily something that we're specifically targeting. Like we're going to come out with a complete tutorial on how to build right away. Like
Yeah.
that's something that eventually we want to have, but
Mm-hmm.
right now it's more about kind of just bridging the gaps and difficulty, and then eventually we'll have this big package of videos
Mm-hmm.
or documents that would enable anybody to get involved.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and I assume it's because it sounds like you're going to be continuing to develop and enhance existing mods or maybe even build new mods. So
Mhm.
I would think or assume that as those get released and developed, people will probably make mod spotlights. There might be mod overviews of it. So I imagine you'd be able to even have like a library of just YouTube. That's self-teaching is
Mhm.
such a
Hmm.
powerful tool with
Mm-hmm.
today's modern standards. You can YouTube almost anything. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like.
now that I've sort of had the space to get in this project and manually start building, like the other builders, the cool thing about that is that I've been able to sort of see exactly, what's lacking and what we need. And so, I'm sort of just developing this big apparatus where it's going to eventually develop into a big tutorial video,
Mm-hmm.
which should be coming sometime in the next month, where I sort of just take that first step in showing everyone what to do and how to do it, and sort of the best methods that we've come up with and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
because like I was in construction for years, and like I almost thought of the whole like apprenticeship aspect. But I guess that would be in the actual like teams themselves that they would, if someone would need help with something, they could put somebody who is more experienced with them to be able to help them more on the
We're like
project.
LARPing as construction workers.
Yeah. Yep.
That is this project.
Construction LARPing. I love it. And honestly, it's true. Like you basically are running a construction business, and that's kind of how like I like to look at it, as you are constructing the earth, one
Yeah,
building
yeah.
at a time.
You guys work so hard on those foundations and all that different stuff, and we just like place block. Oh, that cubic meter's done.
Right? I'll show you guys. We don't gotta wait
If only it was
months for
that easy.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's cool. Well, I know it's about the time we want to turn over to the viewer questions. I do have one last question for you, Pippin. You know, the scale of this project, the scope of it, this transition. Would you say that this is kind of your baby, your that you're going to be focusing on moving forward? You know, kind of as a career ownership perspective. Is that safe to say, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so you have to sort of manage two concepts simultaneously that might seem paradoxical. So, on one hand, this is absolutely awesome, and I'm gonna develop I'm gonna probably have my, I mean, I have. It's like my considerable, the most amount of time. So I'm gonna develop. I'm gonna work on this project a lot. And then at the same time, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So I've got a bunch of other projects and ideas in the works, and so that's sort of what I just keep doing. Is like, I go on a walk, and I sort of, the brain works better, I think, when we walk out in nature and stuff. And so that's sort of the genesis of a lot of my ideas. That's where I came up with this idea. I was on a walk. And so, sort of that's your creative moment to sort of come up with like, well, what's the next step, and what's the next step, and what's the next step. So, I really hate not finishing projects. So pretty much every single project I plan on, finishing, even when it comes to my insane survival server that I'd just been doing prior to the existence of this project. So, I want to be able to finish my projects. I want to be able to come up with new projects, and I want to devote significant amount of time to existing projects. So balancing all of that at the same time is not easy, but I think it can be done. So that's how I'm going to work on it.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think you have the the platform now where your projects you can get that out to people, and that's really cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. Well, Jaywin, do you think do you want to dive over to the user questions, see what we have in store?
Oh, yep, for sure. All right, so the first question that we have is from Minecraft Lord 420. It is, when is the purge slash promo run coming?
God. So he's a staff member. And we've been saying for a bit that there's gonna be some promotions and stuff. The inactive people are gonna get kicked to make room for new members. And
With us,
I
with
hate
such a large
giving I hate
organization, it's
yeah
hard to go through all that stuff.
I hate giving this answer because it's kind of been like a meme that we're always saying that things are coming soon, but it'll be happening soon.
Soon.
Nice.
How soon? No one knows.
In the next few days,
There you go.
hopefully. We got held up. It was supposed to happen Friday. It was supposed to happen three nights ago, actually. But we got held up by something that popped
Well,
up.
I think Minecraft Lord 420 will be pleased by the news. So thank you for that.
That name, Jesus.
Yeah. And the next question is from EXS Ignite. They said, "Who was your main influence when beginning the Earth the World project?" I believe it's the Build the World project or Build the Earth project is what
Sure,
they mean.
yeah.
But who was your influence for that?
Or what?
I,
What
I
is your
I don't know.
influence?
Just like I could just think of like a dozen different things. Like when it comes to Minecraft YouTubing, sort of I've been watching everyone and sort of learning and like getting better and progressing. When it came to the whole Earth project, I don't know. Like there's sort of like some of Michael Jackson's Earth song in there. When I start ranting about how we should like build the entire Earth and we can do that, I felt a little bit of like sort of the power of Fit MC, sort of like rising within me, like his sort of epic way of narration. Um, there's just a bunch of different things. And then of course my background of like totally huge grindy projects. It's like, well, I do those on my own. It'd be cool to do one with the world, or just as many people as possible. So yeah, no, and then yeah. So when I was making the video, I was thinking a lot of, and no one's gonna get this reference, but you know, I was a choir geek for years, and my one of my favorite all time composers, Eric Whitaker, did this video called it was Virtual Choir 4, and it was all about the Earth, right? So I'm trying to remember the name right now. But so yeah, if you just Google Eric Whitaker Virtual Choir 4, it just has it's this like 30-minute piece of sort of just um the universe completely personified, like, you know, within sound, and it's incredible. And when you get to the final, like, you know, 5 or 6 minutes, sort of this like 6,000 piece choir of people from all around the globe sort of kind of come in on like this melody, and you can sort of see everything. It's so amazing. It's so amazing. And sort of like the earth shots and the way that, like, you know, it comes in and out, and just the way that that emoted me really, really influenced me when it comes to considering this Earth project, because, you know, the gravity of it, like, I really, really resonated with that. Sort of the energy that I was trying to get at with that video that I made. I was really, really inspired by, you know, Eric Whitaker's Virtual Choir 4. Um, Deep Field, that's the name of it.
Hmm.
Very
But
cool.
yeah, it was amazing.
Awesome.
Do you ever get writer's block or like creator's block? Like, you ever feel like this is a too big daunting of task, and how do you kind of overcome that if you do?
Yeah, I get that a lot when I'm writing scripts, when I'm coming up with shots for sort of each. The thing with YouTube is like, so you watch it, it's really entertaining, but it's like you have to get a shot for like every 2 to 4 seconds, and so like 3 minutes of like, you know, really, like, you know, just packed 3 minutes packed with dialogue ends up being like, you know, all these shots, and it takes like literally like a minute. If you get a minute an hour conversion to your work, that's actually like really good. I usually get like at least double that.
People are
Maybe
always
like
like,
2 hours for a whole
they're,
minute.
they're like, when's that new video dropping? It's like, if you understood how video editing worked, it's gonna be a little bit, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
really cool though.
Yeah, so I got you know, when I get the blocks, I mean, when it happens when I'm writing, I don't really know how, I sort of just stop and think about something else for a while, and then, you know, come back. And then, you know, if I'm really, really experiencing a block, or I just feel like crap and I just cannot do this, I usually go outside and, you know, go for a walk and stuff. When I come back, I feel really, really refreshed. And so, like, I think, you know, we spent the majority of our evolutionary history as human beings, you know, out in nature. And so I feel like that gets all those cognitive processes running when you go out there. You know, it's really, really important. I'd recommend for any YouTube content creator, if they sort of really want their creative capacity operating at its max, do that very often. That would be my advice when it comes to, especially, you know, clearing blocks with writer's block and such.
Perfect.
And it's good for you physically. So,
Hmm.
get nice and fit, get your steps in.
There you go.
Cool.
All right, so the next question is, this one is for you, Aspire, from Neon Gaming CBT. Said, how does Aspire feel about so many of the staff copying his Discord picture style, MS Paint profiles?
I had a feeling this one was gonna come up. So my Discord profile picture, which I think was at the beginning of the stream
Hmm.
before Pippen and I joined. Um, Maybe I think the best way of going through this question would be to finally explain where it's from, because I get asked all the time where it's from. So I used to be a semi-professional Counter Strike player. You know, had some sponsors and stuff. Um, and there was this. I think we were just playing normal CVO, and we ended up getting paired against like a really really good team that you know, in our SIVA league, we were probably in the bottom four teams. They were in the top two, um, and you know they were kicking our butts. But they weren't the nicest people. You know, they were the type that would talk a lot of crap and stuff, and um, so that actually was that team's um, organization logo that was drawn in probably about 45 seconds whenever one of us called a timeout. Um, So within the Counter Strike timeouts 2 minutes. So, somebody drew that, and then we all made it our profile pictures on Steam, just to kind of mess with them back because we were just having fun. They were taking things too serious.
Salt in the
Um, yeah. So I've never understood why everybody's so uh, you know into my profile picture. I think there's 5 or 6 emojis now of just different edits of it. um, I don't understand. It doesn't really make a difference to me. I think it's funny. There's a couple for Pippin's profile picture as well. So
Well,
I don't know.
I,
I do like that. I think it does show that staff are connecting with us, which is
yeah,
great.
I feel like that's because they look up to you, and honestly, I feel like you expressing where it actually comes from is probably very beneficial to their psyches. So,
I've I've always just replied to that with "it's a long story" or whatever. But
yeah.
this is actually the
The
first time I've
official
come
story.
Now
out
that
and
you've said it,
explained
they
it.
can develop the meme substructure more
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
now
based on
that
the lore you've
more.
provided.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
I
Cool.
can't wait to see an edited Aspire profile picture on CNN somewhere.
Oh yeah,
There you
it's
go.
getting there. So the next question is from Ben's Easy Gaming. It looks like this one is for you, Pip, and it says your latest video said about making the shells of buildings. Doesn't that contradict number 12 in FAQ? Can I use a mod that creates all buildings from an API?
Yeah, yeah. So initially, when I started this project, that proposition came up pretty quick, and initially I was of the opinion of no. I think we should just do all buildings, from the ground up. I consider it like a handicap or like cheating or something like that, because in my own projects I'm generally very strict, but um, Mindfact did quite a bit of work on me, changing my mind about it, showing me that no, there's actually quite a lot of work left, even if you start with just a building shell, right? All the detail and stuff and everything that has to be made. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Okay, all right. In that case, we'll go ahead and approve the building shell concept for your project and perhaps some major cities. And then sort of, I've been changing my mind on it. So that advice in the Discord is pretty old advice. And especially when it came to finally now building my first building, I realized just exactly how gargantuan this project is and that we're going to need all the help that we can get. So now I'm of the opinion that I would like to get the building shell 3D concept where everyone can sort of just start out with the, dimensions, perfectly laid out by a mod, or it's just, the 3D data that we have on buildings, for them to be able to start with that and work from there, because I spent an inordinate amount of time getting that one shell up. That was the beginning of the video, and it took a lot of time, and it would just be I'm going to give every single aid that we can in order to finish this project, up into some ridiculous points. Like I've been considering, well, what if we get AI involved? It's like, well, that's kind of cheating, but there might be some sort of interesting ways we can incorporate AI as a tool. But I'd say that's sort of just like we're up to the border of the limit of what I would allow there. So I've definitely changed my mind when it came to providing building shells as a starting dimension for everyone to build with.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that.
All right. The next question comes from Ezra En. Will we ever have a meetup event in real life for the Minecraft server?
That's a
I don't
that's a
know.
good question. Recently, one of our staff members um, posted a link to like one of those like a Minecon esque event that's happening in like a year and a half, and we kind of lightly joked about going or whatever, but it's too early to make a decision now. I think, and you could chime in, Pippin, if I'm incorrect about this, but I think that depending on how long the project goes on, and if there's continued interest, of course we want to try to facilitate closer connection with the community members. So I wouldn't see any reason why we shouldn't try to have some type of in real life meetup.
I would love to go to those events, on the singular stipulation that I don't end up on a cringe compilation. Um,
See, I would want to get us on a cringe compilation because that's more publicity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
If it's done right.
Yeah.
There's a fine line for that good, tasteful cringe
Hmm.
versus just
Yeah,
that nasty cringe.
yeah,
So
yeah. They're when they're with you versus when they're not.
yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, great question. Next one is from Brash Plays, and they ask, "Is there any way to regenerate the terrain with newly updated / edited Terra OSM tiles? If so, how do you do it, or is that in the near future?"
Um, Terra's still using the same OSM data as it was previous. Oh, actually,
Is he
that
talking about
question,
the like
yeah.
projection switch?
No,
I
I believe he's asking if OpenStreetMap updates their data, if
Oh,
there's any way to regenerate. I thought I misunderstood the question at first. Um, there could be ways in the future of doing that. Off the top of my head, I can think of a couple, some that are kind of already partially built into Minecraft. But the issue with that is, if you change the terrain that you're building on, which that would do, that could cause even more issues with your builds in the future. And then you also have to keep in mind that you may be building a 512 by 512 block in the city, but there could be a 512 by 512 block right next to yours that somebody else is building. So we have to keep everybody else on the same terrain generation.
yeah. It's not
Um,
going to change from here. And that was the thing about switching projections was we had about 2 weeks of people working on equirectangular, and we lost almost all of that building work because
Mm,
we couldn't convert because
mhm.
slash rotate didn't really work, and yeah, so everyone just kind of had to start from scratch, and that's why we considered it the number one really serious issue that we needed to get out and finish like as soon as possible, so that we didn't have too much of that. So we lost a lot of work with that, but I think in the end it was worth it.
it's short-term loss for long-term gain kind of
Yep.
situation. Cool. Thank you guys.
All right. The next question is from the building OG. How long do you expect this project to take until completion?
Sort of the big number that everyone throws around is 10 years or less. We're really just not going to have a clear answer until we see what it's like to progress in the project for a couple of years. So, we'll have a better answer in a year. We'll have an even better answer in 2 years, etc., etc.
Yeah. Well, it's just like
I think
the more you constantly work on something, the faster and better you get at doing it. So I feel
That too.
like that's part of it. What were you saying,
But
Aspire?
I think as well, as our development's also going to decrease the amount that it takes someone to build. So,
Mm-hmm.
the not only are the builders going to get faster on their, by themselves by just building more, we're going to be coming out with things to, hopefully increase the speed. So,
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Cool, guys. Next question is from Ben's Easy Gaming again. They asked, "Is there a timeline on when we can expect a better installation method? We get a lot of people having issues in support."
actually, that it's coming soon. So, Um, we are currently working with Bartex, who Bartex is an absolute godsend. He's been so great to work with. We have a whole tester team that's about 3-ish weeks old now, and their two main tasks are to increase server performance and stability, and then they're creating a automatic um, server installation executable sorry, that works with a vanilla launcher. So anybody will, you basically just download the file, click it, open the file, click install, and then it creates a custom profile. It all settings needed for the mods to run are correct, and it also downloads the latest version of all the mods. Um, so yes, that's support's been struggling since the beginning, and we're pushing that out hopefully very soon. The Windows version's 95% completed. We got to get the Mac and Linux versions completed before full release.
Yeah,
Cool.
the reason that I think this is actually really interesting. The reason that Earth 1-to-1 was never possible before was because Minecraft has a height limit. So Minecraft generates in chunks of 16 by 16 by the height limit, which is 256, 255, 254, around there. And so it wasn't possible generating the Earth terrain because obviously Earth terrain goes above 255 meters on a regular basis. So fortunately, Bartex, the head developer of Cubic Chunks, is that's a mod where you've got 16 by 16 by 16 cubes. So he fundamentally restructures the way that Minecraft generates. So you can get infinite build height in vertical directions. So you can go vertically and build up there like as far as you can in normal Minecraft horizontally. So it's a really, really amazing mod, really mind-blowing mod, and it's what makes our entire project possible. And that's who Bartex is. He's the one who sort of who founded that.
Really cool.
And that's been in development for almost 10 years now.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's quite a large project in of itself.
So are you basing all of the like elevation heights based off of what sea level is to be able to make it as realistic as possible?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we use OpenStreetMaps for vector data. So OpenStreetMaps doesn't have any